Okay, for this project we are making what pretty well is a universal dipole base for amateur radio. If you want to have an easy to do amateur radio antenna, or at least the base of one, in this case I'm actually going to make a 10-meter dipole, but this frame can be used for any size and can be changed at any time at a later date. You will need some coax. I have coax here that already has one end that is crimped on with a PL259 connector that is going to work attached to my 10-meter capable high-frequency base station radio for amateur radio. The other end doesn't have an end on it, so we're actually going to strip this down and use in just a bit. You'll also need a piece of PVC. This is about 8 inches long. Really, the length of this is not material at all. This part does not matter. You'll also want a hole through it so that you can pass the cable cleanly through. So you want a hole that's big enough to actually get this cable worked through. And there we go. So now I have my cable actually poking through. And that's going to be the base. The other things that you will need are some cable to use for the actual elements. In this case, this is 18 gauge, a 60-foot roll of 18 gauge cable. That's going to make my dipole elements. And then also hose clamps to secure everything together. We're not going to be soldering on this particular base. You can solder if you'd like. There's not really any reason to solder it if you don't want to. This base will work just fine without it. So I'm going to go ahead and start the construction here. I've got a thing of hose clamps, and I haven't even taken them out of the package yet, so that's what we're going to do. So here we have the hose clamps. I don't think those are going to be, nope, those are not quite big enough for our purposes, so we're going to use the big ones. The big ones should work okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll be using the 2 large hose clamps out of this pack. Set that over there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the tape here off of this cable so it's no longer bundled. We don't need the bundle any longer. Set all this stuff aside. And here we go with the cable. So now what I've got here is I've already taken and scored just a little bit there. I probably am going to want to score that some more than what I have. So I'll get out my blade here. And I'm going to score this side just a little bit more, just to make it a little more rounded here. I just want to, cut back on the possibility of the PVC pipe messing with the coax. So that's basically what I'm doing there. Oh, drop my coax in the floor. That's not good of me. Okay, what you're going to want to do is run the coax through the PVC pipe. Okay. Unfortunately, that blade is nowhere near sharp enough to cut this. So, I have these. Just a Radio Shack generic hobby knife type thing. And all I'm going to do here is strip away some of this coax. I lack proper cable strippers, so that's why I'm doing it this way. I'm hoping that I don't damage anything in the process. Okay, we're back. I have unwoven this. I have removed the dielectric from the center conductor, and here I have, as you can see, let me see if I can get a good shot on the camera there. So I have the shield here, and then I have the center conductor here, and what I'm going to do is bring these back down, and I'm going to step over here out of frame a little bit and get myself a zip tie. Now, unfortunately, the only zip ties I happen to have on me at the moment are a whole lot bigger than what I need. But that's okay. They're zip ties and we can cut the ends of them off. So it's all good. Okay, I'm going to need 3 zip ties for this. Okay. Now the first zip tie we'll use to basically make a kind of strain relief on the cable. So here we have the cable shoved through the PVC. We have our ends split like this so that we have the shield here and the center conductor here. And basically what we want to do is attach this zip tie up pretty close to where these come through at. About here or so. Just pretty close. And then get that zip tie, just get it on there just good and tight. And then trim off your extra. Okay. That is going to make us a relief to help keep this from pulling back through. That'll make a nice relief for us. So as you can see, now I can't actually pull that through the PVC. So that part's good. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to take these, flatten them down a little bit, and I'm actually going to zip tie these together, and then I'm going to zip tie here so that this piece stays exactly how it is. So I actually got fewer zip ties than I need. I'm going to go ahead and zip tie the bottom just because it'll be easier to go ahead and do this first. But we've got our bit there. And I stretch that zip tie, get that in there good, and get it pulled decently tight. And I'm not going to worry about perfectly removing the excess. But as you can see now, we have, with the 2 zip ties, this coax is not coming out of that PVC. Okay, the next bit is going to be the hose clamps. Now these hose clamps are going to take a little while to crank down, so I'm going to do that part off camera. And the next bit, but I'll go ahead and do this part here on camera. All I'm doing with this is bending down, and I'm going to use these to help bend it. But I left a little bit of the dielectric just because I want to make sure and keep that dielectric there. I want to make sure and keep the shield from making any electrical contact with the center conductor here. Very important. Then I'm going to take another zip tie, and I'm going to need 2 total. So I'm going to get another one out of the bag here. Okay. First one I'm going to use to just tie this down. On second thought on this design, I'm just going to leave it. It's okay. This is a bit tarnished. I don't know how well this is going to work. I probably should have actually cut the cable a little further down, but this is a trial run here of making this. I've never made this particular one before, but I have seen it many times. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take and put this clamp, this hose clamp, take and twist this up first. Just twisting, just to kind of help hold it all together. Not overly important. I'm just doing it to make things a little more convenient. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Okay, and then I'm going to actually cut this length off a little bit because it's longer than what I actually need. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, make them about equal or so. Okay, well, I cut this side shorter than I intended, but that's okay. Okay, the next step is the hose clamp. You take the hose clamp and you put it over here and you tighten it down. And you tighten it pretty well. Go ahead and put it on like that, and you tighten the thing down all the way, and then you do the same thing with the other hose clamp on the other side. These hose clamps are what is going to actually tie to our cable that we're going to use for the elements. I'm going to go ahead and go off camera again because these are going to take a little while to actually tighten down, so I'm going to go off camera, go ahead and assemble this, and then get ready for the next step, which the next step I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll go ahead and talk about the actual dipole portion of it. So, okay, I've tightened the hose clamps down, as you can see, and let me get a good shot here. As you can see, the hose clamps are just holding the wire down, and we have the center conductor here being held down here, the shield of the coax held down with this one. We have our zip ties to hold the cable in place, and this is now the completed dipole base that we were making. And the reason for the PVC is the PVC gives you something nice and rigid to attach to. You can also pass a rope through here, or a string, or whatever you have available to you, and tie this up somewhere without actually getting anything anywhere close to the beginnings of your elements here.